Today we're looking at Aleister Crowley's Thoth deck, and this is actually the very first deck I ever bought for myself. I absolutely love the artwork. It is so stunning, done by Lady Frida Harris, and to me it's a bit of a mix between expressionism and futurism. Now, Lady Frida Harris used a very special technique which is called synthetic projective geometry, and you can see it in this sort of fractal-like essence that the artwork in these cards has. And the fractals sort of roll and morph into the other cards when cards are in interaction. Is absolutely stunning. The deck is full of symbolism. You can sort of see how and why Crowley thought that Arthur Waite's deck was superficial, because this deck has within it the symbolism of Kabbalah, alchemy, astrology, planetary forces, and all of the Hebrew letters, and even down to the colour scales that the Golden Dawn had associated to the Tree of Life and the Tarot. On the back, we have the Rose Cross. And I'll just hold this up so that you can sort of see. This starts right inside this tiny little cross, not the bigger cross, but inside the little cross, with a tiny white dot, which is pure existence. And what happens is that then unfolds from the cube of space, and we start to see all of these aspects and all of these associations and all of the symbolism starting to unfold through the petals in the inside cross, and then it gets more and more complex as we move outwards in the cross. So from this very, very small section of pure existence, that cube of space unfolds with the three mother letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and they correspond to earth, fire, and water. And then we have the 7 double letters of the Hebrew alphabet, which correspond to the planets, and then the 12 that correspond to the zodiac. Beyond that, these also correspond to the 22 major arcana cards. So this is just this tiny little first inner circle. Then our major sort of cross, which comes from that, also references the 4 Kabbalistic worlds, which also correspond to the suits in the deck, and that is earth, fire, water, and air. And then also we have across a white part there for spirit, which is just underneath our inner rose cross. The lobes on the arms of the cross show the alchemical symbols Mercury, salt, and sulfur. And then behind the cross we have these 12 green barbs, which contain the letters INRI, the glyphs for signs Virgo, Scorpio, the Sun, and also ERO and LVX. So just the back of this card is absolutely jam-packed with so much information. It blew my mind apart when I first heard about it. And I've got some books which I can recommend for you to sort of investigate that a little bit further. So now let's look at the front. Every single aspect in this artwork has meaning for being there. You won't find something in the artwork which does not have relevance. And that includes the color choices, and it includes the shapes and the layout and the symbols. So what we find with the major arcana is that you'll have the Hebrew letter that's associated with the card, and also the planetary or the astrological association as well. Then of course we have the number and we have the name. But as I said, every single aspect of this has symbology, and that could be in an element of the artwork which is associated with the Hebrew letter, or it could be associated with a planet, or it could be associated with another aspect of the card. So every single thing on these cards is not arbitrary. On our minor arcana, we can also see the glyphs that are associated with the decans of the minors. And in this one, we can see the glyph for Jupiter in Gemini. So this is bringing in the aspects of Jupiter into the sign of Gemini, and then that adds another layer onto this card in addition to its placement on the Tree of Life. There are also many references to alchemy and Crowley's philosophy of thelema in this deck. And so there are also some cards which are named slightly differently to what we would expect or what we normally see in the Waite-Smith deck. The two of these are Lust, which would be known as the Strength card in the Waite-Smith, and Adjustment, which would be known as the Justice card. And these two also have switched places in the order. So we find Justice at number 8 and Lust at number 11. We also have different names for the Judgment card, which is known as the Aeon in this deck, and also Art replaces Temperance. And this really brings in the alchemical philosophy. One of the other things that you'll notice is that the court cards are named slightly differently. Rather than pages, knights, queens, and kings, we have princesses, princes, queens, and knights in that order of hierarchy. I also see in a lot of groups people asking why they have 3 Magus cards in the Thoth deck. Now this is purely for efficiency on the print runs. There aren't actually 3 of these cards to be used within the deck. It's just that you get 3 because it's easier to lay out 80 cards than 78 cards to have an efficient print run. So you can choose which Magus card you would like to use in your Thoth deck. This deck truly is a fascinating dive down so many rabbit holes to understand the meaning. This deck truly is a fascinating dive down so many rabbit holes to understand the meaning of the universe. And I would suggest that if you wanted to go down that little path, grab yourself a copy of the Book of Thoth by Aleister Crowley, but you might find this a little heavy going in the language, and so the other one that I would absolutely recommend, a brilliant book by Lon Milo Duquette, which is Understanding the Thoth Tarot, and he has an incredibly amazing way of writing about this, which is extremely accessible and also very humorous. And if you have this, you'll just open up a world of incredible information about this deck. It's a very powerful deck, and it is absolutely loaded with symbolism and reference to so many different areas of mysticism, all which have been attributed to the tarot. And the other thing to check out is TABI's Thoth Thursdays and Gwen and Diva's videos, because they dive right into some aspects of each of the cards and how to use the Tree of Life and numerology and all of these aspects within your reads. So they're doing a brilliant job of explaining this in detail. I have to say, it is one of my favorite decks. It is one of my first decks, and I will always love the Thoth. Thank you.